Got a new NH35. You know, what I have in this build is an old 7S26. And, you know, I tried to say I wouldn't care because it's got a cool day wheel and all that. But so does this one. You know, you just really want the NH35. So my plan is I'm going to put this movement, and this is my Namoki field case that has had about 80 different builds in it so far. I also got a new dial. I know this is a pretty slick look, and I'm going to leave this together intact, and heck, maybe I'll throw it in something else. But my plan for what's going to actually go in that case is going to be that NH35 with... oh yeah, this sweet orange. It's actually kind of glossy, if I can get some light on there. Orange Explorer dial. So let's get cracking. Let's put this dial on, get some hands on, and see what we can do. Extra dial feet all snipped off, as you can see, from like little remnants there, right about there. Used my handy flush cutters at the recommendation of El Jefe. They leave those things pretty clean. That one's a little bumpy, but I don't think it's going to give me a problem. So let's get this dial on that movement. You know, I just realized I had zero plan for the hands on this build. I had 2 sets of these kind of Ranger style hands. So we're going to go ahead and throw one of those on there. It's got a big old white seconds hand. I'm not sure how I feel about that, but we'll deal with that when we get to it. But for now, I think I'm going to slap these bad boys on there. I think, as it turns out, I like this big white seconds hand. Wasn't sure how I was going to feel about it, but, you know, with the white loom, it's kind of cool. This orange and white, that's a nice, pleasing, soothing color combo. This thing is going to look fire. And man, that was going to look so awesome, but disaster! This dial is like a little too big. I can't fit it. It's stuck on top of the crown tube right now, but it is getting held up. You can see it's not in on that side. It's getting held up on the crown tube. I tried to force it. That was a mistake, because now I'm pretty sure the hour and minute hands are off the post and the dial's wedged in there, but the movement is loose. So I got to somehow try and pry all this crap out of here and then figure out a way to notch the dial or something so I can get it crammed in this case. I'll check back in when I figure all that out. So, man, I had this thing jammed in there. It didn't fit. I had kind of, what happened was the dial got wedged in there. I was able to get the movement out, but the hands obviously were holding, the dial came off the movement, but the hands were obviously holding the movement up in there. Eventually the hands all just popped off. I was able to pry everything out. We're going to start over. Amazingly, the dial's not in terrible shape, and I mean, there's a couple nicks right around where the hands hole where the hands post comes through the hole in the middle. Nothing you'll be able to see once the hands are on it, and I think the hands are in good shape too. So let's see how it's looking. Okay, you guys don't even want to know how bad I just hacked at this dial to get it down to size. Turns out it wasn't a 28.5, it was a 29 millimeter dial. First thing I did was take a diamond file and try and put a little notch there by 3 o'clock for the crown tube. I figured if that works, sweet. Turns out that was not enough because, like I said, it's a 29 millimeter dial. At this point, I was like, you know what, this is a cheap $8 dial I got off AliExpress. I took a Dremel to it. And I just burned around the edges of it till I got it down to about 28.5. It now fits in the case. So I'm going to go ahead. It's back on the movement right now. So I'm going to put the hands back on it and see how we're looking. Okay. I got the hands back on it, and as it turns out, the hands were fine. They didn't take any damage getting pushed off of the hands post by the actual dial itself. Is the dial still pristine? No, but I mean, it's perfectly fine. You know, I had to hack around the edges. They're not super smooth and clean anymore, but all that part is under the reheart. You can't see that. I cleaned it up. There's nothing loose. There's nothing, no flakes or brass dust in there or anything. And I managed to get it back in there. You know, and when I tried to case it this time, if it didn't fit, I was going to throw this whole freaking thing right out the window. But it got on. I mean, the hands went back on perfectly smooth. The spacing is still great. It's seated in the case. It's all in there all the way around, real nice and tight. Perfect fit. Still comes out easily. I made sure it's not jammed in there. I was able to still get it back out. So we're good to go. The moral of the story here is, guys, just keep going, man. I've done hundreds of these, and I still have absolute shit shows of mods that, you know, this started off as such an easy mod. It was supposed to be a quick dial hands recasing, and it turned into a train wreck in no time. But I think we're going to end up with a pretty cool watch here. So I don't have the case back on yet, so I'm going to go ahead and do that, finish her up here, and we'll take a look at the finished product. So there it is, all put back together. This actually came out pretty cool. I really like this shade of orange. It's not real deep. It's almost, but it's not quite creamsicle orange. It's somewhere in between. But this came out great. A lot of problems along the way. I'm definitely going to need a drink after finishing this one. If I didn't mention, this is the Namoki 38mm field case. But yeah, so I just kind of stuck with it. I even zoomed in. I think you can see it still looks pretty good. This is the same handset and dial that got stuck in there. I did scuff that 11 o'clock marker up a little bit when I was trying to sand the dial down to 28.5 millimeters. Other than that, the hands were still in great shape. There was nothing wrong with them at all. They were still nice and flat. They just kind of popped off the post. So I was able to get it back together, and that's a pretty cool little mod. All right, so I just wanted to share that with you guys. So, you know, modding isn't all sunshine and rainbows. It can also suck. All right, guys, catch you next time.